Welcome to the video. Peace and love to everybody out there watching. My name is Sydney, and today in this video, or for this moment in this video, I am going to discuss right and wrong. Now, I'm going to speak from my personal wisdom, and not from anybody else's perspective but mine. Now, through my formal education, that is going to quote unquote school, pre-K through college, every day you are consistently told and taught there is a right or wrong. Now, as my non-physical and physical journey continues, I have come to the conclusion that for me, in Sydney's reality, there is no right or wrong. I say there is no right or wrong in my reality because I understand that for there to be a right or wrong, there must be a blanket standard for everyone. An example: murder is looked at as quote unquote wrong. But depending on the context, depending on the person, it's considered right. An example of a context where murder is quote unquote right is the murdering of animals, because you supposedly need to kill animals to sustain your life, or the murdering of enemies in things like war, which is again something we supposedly need to sustain our quality of life. An example of when murder is quote unquote wrong is when a civilian murders another civilian. Another example of where right or wrong is also relative is something like opportunity. Some people may say life is limited with the opportunities that you have. Other people may say life is infinite in the amount of opportunities you have. One person may say the other person's perspective is quote unquote wrong, but the other person may feel the same way, that their perspective is right and the other person's perspective is wrong. So, with that, I have come to the conclusion that everything is relative. Everything in this existence is relative. There can be no right or wrong because there is no blanket way of thinking. Everybody does not think the same. The context of every action is not the same. murder is not always done in the same context. So you can't say, well, I don't believe you can say murder is wrong. Another example of something that is right or wrong, depending on the context, is kidnapping. When you consider a civilian getting kidnapped, and by kidnapped I mean taken against their will and held against their will, that's wrong. But if you take an animal against this will and hold it against this will, that's right. Because supposedly you need the animal to eat. I believe that the whole concept of right or wrong is a fertile ground for hypocrisy. It's a fertile ground for contradiction. And it is something that I will never teach my children. And I wouldn't recommend anyone else teaching their children there's a right or wrong. Also, with a right or wrong, that comes with a certain perspective that you must adopt or be criticized for. Now, because I do not believe in a right or wrong and have that as a part of my reality, that in no way means anything but I don't believe in a right or wrong. Now, there are things that I, Sydney, do not agree with, and that I, Sydney, would not personally do. That doesn't mean I think they wrong. That doesn't mean I condemn or criticize anybody for doing it. Simply means I don't agree with it and I wouldn't do it. An example of one of the actions that I don't agree with, but I wouldn't call wrong, is the murdering of animals. Humans are not carnivores. Carnivores differ from humans in many ways. I'll just speak of three.